So
Hi, my name is Rochelle, and you're listening to BoxBox F1 Pod. Welcome to the Monaco Grand Prix episode. I know it's been a minute since we've chatted, but I'm back now, and we're good. And I can't wait to talk about this race, because what the hell was that? What an odd race. It wasn't like full of drama and like racy racing, but it was, after a certain point, it was like really chaotic. And a lot of that was due to penalty after penalty after penalty after penalty after investigation. Penalty, investigation. No penalty. Penalty. And that was the FIA today. Literally nonstop investigations and penalties being handed out. And we're going to talk about all of it. We're going to talk about our king of the season, Will Kimi Antonelli, who I adore. We're going to talk about the losers from this race, and there were quite a few. Losers is a bad word, because most of them just made me want to cry. But a lot of people did not win. Actually, I'm pretty sure only Kimi won today. Kimi literally won, and metaphorically, he's the only one who I think left happy, except for maybe Lewis Hamilton. And we're going to get into all of that and to all of our exciting celebrity guests this weekend. So without further ado, let's jump into the digital warm-up. Lap 1, F1 news. So I know I've skipped a couple of races. It would take too long to recap all of them. So we're just going to dive into the most recent news and just go from there. Alpine has announced that Gucci was a title sponsor for 2027. First of all, from Pierre to go from being sponsored by AlphaTauri to Gucci is a crazy jump. He will look 10 out of 10 as a rep for them. Like, truly, like they picked an excellent person to help wear Gucci. But what the hell is Alpine playing at? Getting an Italian fashion house as a title sponsor for like the most French organization alive. Like, surely it should have been, I don't know, Louis Vuitton, YSL. I'm blanking on other Chanel. Well, no, I don't think Pierre was about to walk around in Chanel, but you know what I mean. Like, there's so many iconic French fashion houses, but they went with Gucci. Feels kind of bizarre, but next year they will be Gucci Racing Alpine Formula One team, and their colors will change to classic Gucci, which I think is just black and gold. To be honest, it's a huge relief to be moving away from the Pepto-Bismol pink and blue concoction that BWT forced upon these poor drivers. Honestly, when I saw, like, I don't actually know if they actually wore the colors or if it was an AI generated image, but I assume this whole story was fake originally, because the pictures of Franco and Pierre wearing the Gucci racing suits looked so bizarre. I was like, there's no way this is real, but it's real. Gucci's coming to the grid next year, so all right. So as of last week, I think it was literally a couple days ago, Charles signed a multi-year Ferrari contract renewal. I don't even think his contract was up. I think he just renewed it. I can't say I'm surprised. I've always said that he will be at this team unless they get rid of him. Which I think is insane of him. And if there was any evidence that he made an insane choice, we can just look at the race that followed immediately after this announcement. Because Charles, like, I feel like he will be studied in psychology classes as like a prime example of Stockholm syndrome. Why do you keep? I understand the sentimental value that this team holds for you. I understand why he stays, but I don't understand. I understand the sentimental reasons he stays. I don't understand how that continues to overpower the clear suffering he endures at the hands of the Ferrari team. He is constantly depressed, unhappy, struggling. Like, he is never happy. And like why he's opted in to go back. It's just frustrating to watch because I feel like his potential could, not just his potential, like, well, yeah, his potential, his experience, his talent, all of that would be better served at a different team. And he did say he had other options that he didn't go with. He was like, they can say if they want, but I'm not going to say what other choices I had. I actually don't know which top teams would be offering to him. But I don't even know if a mid-tier team would be that bad of an option for him, honestly, at this point. Because I feel like the mental health toll the Ferrari team takes on Charles, and we saw the impact it has on him literally today. Like, I've never seen him get that unhinged. It's truly heartbreaking. And Charles has had enough heartbreak in his life. So, all right, moving on, lap 2, off track F1. Charles's brother, who got married last year, is expecting his first baby. So congratulations to Charlotte and Lorenzo. What a name. I just think that name is like super like romantic just because of Letters to Juliet, where they reunite the grandmother with her long lost love, Lorenzo. And so in my head is just like the dreamiest love story. Probably still is. Speaking of romance, Kim Kardashian and Louis have officially gone Instagram official. We've obviously seen them like they're obviously official, but like I think he had posted a clip of her driving around in a car in Japan and either got removed or something happened with it. But she posted a dump of lately, as she captioned it, and it included some videos of her and Louis riding bikes together. Look, I'll talk about them more in a bit, but I just don't understand the hate against this couple. I think they're such a good match. Like, they totally make sense to me. I think they complement each other really well. They're age appropriate. They're both incredibly famous and successful in their own spheres. Like, they both love fashion. They both love big moments. They both love collecting important things. They both love pets. They both love causes. They both have their own causes that they really care about. And they're both like very passionate about it. Like, what is the problem here? Like, so many people are I mean, wherever Kim Kardashian goes, hate follows. That still baffles me, but I love them together. I truly think this is such a good match. It feels very out of left field, but if you remember she dated Pete Davidson, it's a little less out of left field, honestly. Carlos and Alex did their regular pod together and they were reminiscing on a moment. I've honestly don't think I've ever seen Carlos lose it to this extent. But they were reminiscing on a moment in Japan where they were asked what their plans were, what they were striving for in that race that day. And Carlos goes pole position, and it's hard to recreate. I've linked it in the show notes for you to actually experience yourself. But like Alex's eyes are like fully like bug-eyed, like cartoon level bug-eyed. And he goes, pole position, and then just stares into the distance with the continued bug-eyed. And Carlos is literally crying with laughter, remembering this moment. And they like recreated it on the podcast. And then Carlos was basically just like, you can tell that you're so jet lagged in Japan and like you have no idea what's going on. It was so funny, but it I feel like it's not like a completely different situation, but like I feel like Carlos is in these sort of scenarios often because remember the time when he was in the car at Silverstone with him and Charles, and some fan walks up, he's like, good luck today, P3, yeah. and Carlos goes, P3? Why P3? And Charles is just like keeled over with laughter at this. And then of course Carlos goes on to win the race and it's his maiden win. But it was just such a funny moment. I feel like this is kind of similar vibes to that, where a position is said at Carlos's potential position is stated, and then someone reacts bizarrely. It was really funny. Anyway, kind of short this time, but the last thing I want to talk about, and this is truly, I think, one of the most insane things that I've ever seen on the internet, particularly because it was just thrust upon me out of the blue. Like, I was just scrolling my For You page and it just popped up, and I watched part of it, scrolled past it, and then I went, wait a minute, and then I scrolled back and I was like, what have I just seen? It was a video promoting a matcha shop, and it was 3 girls and Dr. Helmut Marko. And they're just like doing TikTok trends around Helmut Marko and trying to get him to participate. And he's like attempting to participate, but he is like prehistoric and he looks extremely confused. And he's like trying to go through the motions of what they've clearly told him to do, but he's not really succeeding. And it's very confusing. I'm assuming he owns this place. Why does Helmut Marko own a matcha shop? Did he just walk in on accident? They're like, want to film some content with, like, why? And I probably could have investigated this further, but I kind of like living in this unknown of just Helmut Marko and this matcha shop somehow existing in the same universe. Why do these girls think that Helmut Marko would bring in more, was like the correct avenue to reach a bigger I mean, I guess, I mean, if I wherever this matcha shop is, I'm now kind of curious what it's all about. He does terrify me. I have no idea why these girls are associating with him, but Helmut Marko is now invested in a matcha shop in some capacity. I don't know if it's financially or if it was an accident. Okay, I found a Reddit post. Helmut Marko having a matcha with the girlies, and it's just a video. Am I having a stroke? Is a comment. That's how I felt. No one has it. No one has an answer. Oh, okay. Yeah. So the matcha shop is in a hotel, and I think Helmut owns the hotel. Got it. Okay. So I was sort of right. What is the hotel? Let's see if we can figure it out. We're doing this live. Helmut Marko matcha. Kai 36 is the name of the. It looks like it's in Germany based on Austria. Right, he's Austrian, my bad. But it's German, so I was right about that. The hotel looks like nothing from the outside. But apparently the inside has an incredible art collection and F1 memorabilia signed by both Seb and Vettel. Interesting. Well, the more you learn. I'm glad we got to go on that journey together. So, inadvertently, Dr. Helmut Marko is invested in a matcha shop. And they decided he was the best course for marketing said matcha shop. All right. Moving on, lap 3, trackside in Monaco. This was a big Kim weekend, at least for me. One of my coworkers named Kim is there. She's a guest of people in Monaco, important people in Monaco, and her experience there sounds insane, and I'm incredibly jealous. Then there is, of course, Kimi Antonelli, and of course there's Kimi Räikkönen, and I'd like for all of us to take a moment to remember Kimi Räikkönen's epic storm off when he DNF'd in the Monaco Grand Prix, and he walked through the streets of Monaco and onto his yacht, still wearing his racing suit. Excellent Kimi Räikkönen moments. The way Kimi Antonelli and Kimi Räikkönen couldn't be more polar opposites of human beings is crazy. They are genuinely exact opposite humans. And I love it. I would love to see them interact in any way possible. But I bring up the Kimi Räikkönen moment not just because it's iconic, but because it is relevant to today's events, and we'll get back to that. And then of course there was Kim Kardashian. She was there for quali yesterday. She came with Chloe. She was wearing like a like a black lace jump like thing, tank top, I guess. There's a word I'm trying to say that I can't remember, but we can go with black lace tank top and jeans. And she got a lot of criticism for her outfit and how she's not dressed like a wag, she's not dressed for Monaco, blah, blah, blah. My feeling is that Lewis had probably told her that Saturday is more casual. And I also feel like she probably didn't want to draw too much attention to herself, even though she would still draw attention to herself. But like, I don't know. I feel like she decided to go more low key and it backfired. Today, she showed up in a classic Kim K outfit. It was actually very reminiscent of old Kim K. It was like a bodycon type dress, but it was a really pretty dress. So she was a bit more dressed the part today. I don't know if that was due to the criticism she got yesterday or because she was always planning to go more nice for the actual race, but she was there. She did ignore Brundle on the grid walk. I don't know why Lewis didn't warn her that it is good etiquette to talk to Martin Brundle, but she was ignoring everyone. She might have been a bit like shell-shocked and like trying to disassociate. I also loved yesterday the Mercedes admin posted George and Carmen up on their balcony and they were watching Kim K do the walk through the paddock. And the social media admin was like, what are you guys looking at? And George was like, we're watching Lewis's new girlfriend walk through the paddock. And then Carmen was like, yeah, I think Kim K's down there. And then the social media admin said, do you get this kind of reception, Carmen? And she's like, why would you ask that? Anyway, so Kim K is there. It was very wholesome today. We'll talk a little bit more about her activity at the post-race. She was very wholesome. So we'll talk about that in the post-race section. But anyway, I think that really brings us to a close with our digital warm-up. On to analysis. Okay, on to analysis. So starting off with quali really quickly. Kimi scored pole position by 43 milliseconds ahead of Max. We saw some phenomenal laps being placed. I think one of the scariest parts was not scariest, but like Charles had the fastest lap time, so he was sent away on pole. He obviously lost it once everyone else like placed their times, but like he was so intent on setting a better time that he ended up crashing. And this is just like, I feel like something possesses Charles. He'll always make a he is quite an emotional person. I think sometimes he lets his emotions get the better of him. In Monaco specifically, it's like he's possessed and like nothing besides winning in Monaco matters. And I totally get it. He's had such an unlucky streak in Monaco, all of which was not his fault. But like I think he really gets into his head here, unfortunately. Eileen Gu gave out the Pirelli tire. She's the Olympic skier. Also, I want to say that in his Park Firm post quali speech interview, Lewis said a huge thank you to the guys back at the factory and here. The guys. I've never heard him do that. He has always thanked the guys and the girls, the men and the women. He has always thanked everyone. He does this after the race as well, and I'm confused. Does this mean that Ferrari has no women working in their factory or on the engineering team, or is Lewis just now not mentioning them? Because that's crazy to me. Every time it was the same. Guys and girls back at the factory. Guys and girls here and back at the factory. Guys and girls back. And then he moves to Ferrari, and it's just the guys. Are there no women there? And then a funny moment in the post-quali press conference, Max and Lewis get asked if they have any advice for Kimi. And Max says, so when the lights go out, wait 1 second. That's my advice. And then Lewis chimes in. He's like, well, I'm third, so wait 2 seconds, please. And Kimi's like, okay, well, thanks, guys. Great advice. And it's really funny until you know what's coming from Max. R.I.P. All right, starting grid is as follows: Kimi, Max, Lewis, Charles, Isaac, George, Oscar, Orlando, Pierre, Liam, Alex, Carlos, Nico, Colapinto, Lindblad, Gabby, Ocon, Perez, Ollie, Bottas, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll. Please don't ask me why I've written last names for some, first names for others, and full names for others. It's just what comes out. That's just what feels natural. And given that this is Monaco, you would expect that this starting grid that I just read out is copy paste the finishing results. But you'd be wrong. And it's not for any fun reasons either. So let's dive into the race now. All right. So at the start, Bierman, Bottas, and Bortoletto all pit in like the first lap, basically, which is interesting because before the race, that was mentioned as one of the potential strategies that some teams could take if you're at the back of the grid, to pit in the first lap because it'll help you catch up. But I also think that Gabby might have had some damage because he was in there for a really long time. Eventually came out. Unfortunately, the biggest thing that happened at the start was that Max couldn't get off the line. He had some sort of power unit issue. And by the time he was able to move, it was too late. He was moving so slowly. So he gets on the radio and says, like, what should I do? And GP just says, bring it home. He did get a little angry on the radio, but I think he got over it because, like, it's reliability issue. What can you do? But it was so sad. And then he went to the media pen as he's supposed to do his interview, and he was like, the interviewer was like, so what you gonna do? And he's like, oh, I'm gonna go home. It's like 500 meters that way. And then there was a video of him changed in his jeans and his polo with his backpack on, getting onto a little speedboat so they could take him home. And it was funny because, like we talked about Kimi Räikkönen earlier, it felt very reminiscent of that, but a little less dramatic because he didn't leave in his racing suit and just storm onto his yacht. He just like calmly got changed, did all of his duties, and was like, I'm going home. And fair enough, he did DNS before the race even started, or like as the race started. So like that would have been 2 hours of useless time for him there. And he probably just watched the race from home. There was also a funny moment during the driver's parade when they were driving around the track where he literally on live television just pointed exactly where he lives. And people were lolling because he was like, he's always talking about how he wants privacy and how he doesn't care about everything. He's like, so see, count 1, 2, 3. That's my floor right there. You see this? This is me right there. That's me. And I think he also pointed out where other drivers live in that building. It was kind of funny. But anyway, that's where he went to finish off a Sunday, and it's very Max. It was like it was like the Kimmy thing, but not dramatic. No, Kimmy's not like a dramatic person, but like, you know what I mean. Also from the start, George went under investigation for a start infringement, but which was immediately reported by Lando, like within a second. But he was found not guilty, so was no further investigation with that. But with Max gone, Kimi basically has 2 Ferraris chasing him down. No worries about the second Ferrari. Basically just became, well, no one was chasing him down, honestly. He just had people behind him, and he was already overtaking the back of the grid almost immediately. Lap 9-ish, Checo got a drive-through penalty for breaking the rules for the start, basically. He was outside of his box. Sometime in between now and when like all the weird drama started, Isaac started having car issues, and his radios are so funny. They're just like, he gets Frencher on the radio and he's just like, my god, this engine is undrivable. Something's going to explode. Maybe there's a problem still there. But better than what I just did. He just like actually has a French accent. I'm surprised that I forgot to mention during the digital warm-up, Emily in Paris was filming at the Monaco Grand Prix, but she was filming with Cadillac. And I'm like, I'm not really following that of all the teams, Emily in Paris chose to film with Cadillac. Maybe it was like a promo spot for the team and they had to pay. It was really weird. So she was doing a lot of filming with Checo. But I would have loved to see her with Isaac because he's like French. Oh, another moment. Okay, sorry. Another moment that really made me laugh. This was at the Miami Grand Prix, so it was a while ago. And it was Jimmy Fallon was there, and he was doing an interview with Max Verstappen and Isaac Ajar, and he started doing like a bit. He was like, Max, your name is so interesting. It's like Verstappen to get coffee, Verstappen to get some food. And Max deadpans straight, like looks dead into Jimmy's soul and goes, Verstappen this interview. I feel like Jimmy had this like face, like just blinked at the camera that I don't think was faked. Like I think he was genuinely not expecting that reaction, that response from Max. It was kind of funny. Anyway, so Isaac's having serious car issues, which makes his result from this race even more impressive. Kimmy also started complaining about some car issues, but no one gives a fuck because he was doing just fine. There were no real issues. There were issues going on at Williams where Alex got told to swap with Carlos, and Alex was not a fan of that strategy. He said, "We're being too smart about this, guys." I don't get it. Alex on the radio is so funny. But then Lindblad, Arvind Lindblad, overtook Alex, which ended up costing Alex a position, an extra position because of a team call. So you already lost a position, then you lost a second position. But all that ended up working out in the end. Well, like they switched them back eventually, and then Carlos had his own drama. But it ended up, but there was a bit of like intense frustration from Alex for a hot moment. We also started to get suspicious about the penalties at a certain point because a lot of the penalties were for speeding in the pit lane. And we'll do a whole thing about all of the penalties that were accrued during this race, but like there were like 5 speeding in the pit lane penalties, which is at that point, I mean, I started questioning it after I think the second one, but for 5 of the drivers, some of them got 2 of the same penalty for speeding the pit lane. Surely there's something wrong with the sensor. Like, just a thought. But also during this time-ish, Lando ended up retiring the car. He had issues with his power unit, I believe. And when he did the post-race interview in the media pen, and when the race was still going, it wasn't post his race. It wasn't post-race, it was post his race. He was asked how he felt about retiring, and he's like, relieved, honestly. I don't really want to be in that race right now. Okay. He also said something else recently that I like agreed with, which was low-key surprising because often I don't agree with Lando. In the press conference before on Thursday, Charles was congratulated about his renewal with Ferrari. And Lando literally just bursts out laughing. And then the interview is still asking Charles, he's like, can you tell us why you wanted to extend? He's like, why would you want to? And Lando is like laughing and just like looks at Charles and like crosses his arms like, yeah, tell us why, Charles. And Charles is like, well, why are you looking at me like that? And like starts giggling. And like, we all know why he's looking at you like that, Charles, because we're stupid. Anyway, Lando is out of the race. And now we get a safety car. Because Lance Stroll ends up in the wall and the safety car is deployed. Lewis gets pitted first, which was weird because he had a 5-second penalty to serve and they stacked the drivers. So Charles is just waiting for Lewis's pit stop to finish, which means he inadvertently also served a 5-second penalty, which is weird. The safety car was long. You could have pitted them a bit separately. You could have pitted Charles first. Like, I know Lewis was ahead, but like you could have pitted Charles. It's weird. Why did they make Charles serve a 5-second penalty? Anyway, he's annoyed about this. George Russell, who was supposed to serve a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane, did not serve. Well, okay, so we all thought he didn't serve it, but what he did do was wait in the pit lane for Kimmy's tires to be changed. And for some reason the team decided that could serve as him serving the penalty, even though he wasn't in the box. he was just waiting on the side. And so they were trying to argue this with the stewards, and that obviously didn't work. So then George, on top of his 5-second penalty that he served incorrectly, he got a drive-through penalty, and all that was just not great for George Russell. George did get on the radio and was like, did we just serve a penalty? Like, I don't understand what happened. And his team was like, shh, we're not talking about this, because I guess they didn't want him to call attention to it. I'm trying to argue it offline, and it didn't work anyway. So then we get a rolling restart, and Charles immediately ends up at the wall. And the commentator goes, from the podium to the wall. And all I could think in my head was, from the podium to the wall. To the wall. The sweat drips down my tires. Poor Charles. Arthur, they panned to Arthur, his brother. He looked devastated. Charles was fuming. He on the radio, he said, I'm not even gonna take the fucking blame. These fucking brakes. Then they showed him storming through the garage, helmet still on, stormed to the corner where Javi, or wherever his race engineer is, was sitting. He rips off his helmet, rips off the balaclava, rips whatever, the headphones out, and just starts yelling. Like, I've never seen him lose his crap like that. And I was honestly impressed. I'm like, finally, you've grown a backbone. You fought for yourself. The only other time I saw him that upset, well, it's usually sad, right? It's usually like sad upset. There's like anger, but it's not like real anger. The closest we've ever had was when Carlos got his first win, and he was upset because he missed out on something, and Mattia Binotto was like shaking his finger in his face. That was the second most angriest I've seen him, but he was fucking fuming. And then, you know what? I don't know what happened, because like after the race, he started saying all these stuff about like, I'm an idiot, like I should have done this and this and this, this is my fault, blah blah. Like, did they inject him with something? Did they inject him with something to make him like compliant and nice? Because like the one time we saw true genuine emotion, like anger from him, suddenly he's calling himself an idiot again. Why is he doing this? Anyway, this causes a red flag, because what seems to be going on is that area where Charles crashed, there was a lot, the track was like breaking up and marbling. And I think that's also where Lance crashed. So while they both were having brake issues, but really I think this was exacerbated because the road was breaking up in that area. And so that's why they issued a red flag, so they could try to fix it. This is when George found out that he now has a drive-through penalty, and it's also when we found out that Hajar is under investigation. At the beginning of the red flag, he was under investigation for infringing on safety car protocol or something. Then that got dismissed, and then he got accused of breaking red flag protocol or something. And that was going to be under investigation and would be reviewed after the race, which is a little annoying because he was set up to get a podium. And it would be, I hate that they do this when they have to review things after the race. Like, you can 100% review it during the race. Because then like someone goes up there and celebrates, and then it can take it away from someone else to be able to celebrate. I don't know. It's just, I hate that they solve some of these things after the race. I feel like they could do it during the race, and then we could have the podium with everyone who is supposed to be on the podium. But the red flag investigation went away for Hajar after the race. So like he was found not guilty of anything. So at the restart, Kimi manages to take the lead. It was a bit touch and go. That's one of the things he struggles with most is the start. But he manages to take the lead and keep the lead. George was doing, I don't even know what. He was going really slow at the hairpin and basically was holding the entire grid back. It didn't seem like he had an issue with his car. It didn't seem like anything besides him just trying to hold up the back of the grid, which is odd. But because he did that, it caused like a huge backup, and Hulkenberg basically lost a bit of control of his car and ended up crashing into Carlos. And then Carlos was able to limp back to the garage, but he was out. And it was really sad because they literally this whole weekend they kept repeating how Carlos had finally set a new record or how he had the record of finishing the points in every Monaco Grand Prix he'd ever participated in, and we just went ahead and threw that out the window. Hulkenberg also had a small incident with Alex after this, but Alex managed to stay on track because Hulkenberg overtook him off track and had to get the spot back. These are all the penalties we had. Ready? Okay. Colapinto, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Gasly, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Another Gasly, 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. 5-second penalty for Stroll for exceeding track limits. 10-second penalty for Nico Hulkenberg for causing a collision. A 5-second penalty for Lewis Hamilton for speeding in the pit lane. George had a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. George had a drive-through penalty for serving his penalty incorrectly, as a team decided him waiting for Kimi's pit stop to finish counted as a pit stop, but you need to be in your box. So Checo got a drive-through penalty for not being inside his box at the start, and Checo got another penalty for the same start infringement at the restart. And Hajar was under investigation for red flag infringement because apparently his team started working on fixing the issue with his car, and they were asked what they were doing, so then they put everything back the way it was. The investigation was basically trying to figure out if they changed anything about the car. Checo's infringement at the restart was still under investigation, and they did issue the penalty after the race, which let Fernando move up ahead into the points and push Checo down. Isaacs was also under investigation, but he was found not guilty, and so nothing affected his race result. The DNFs are as follows. Max, who technically is a did not start, followed by Bottas, Ollie, Lando, Lance, Charles, Sainz, and that's it. So 7 DNFs. That's insane. When Charles was asked to talk about how he was feeling in the media pen, he said angry, sad, a lot of negative emotions. And then, like I said before, he's like now blaming himself for everything. He is saying that there is another option for the brake thing, that he was offered it before, but he didn't want to test it out in Monaco because it was such a sketchy area to test something like that out. So he's saying it's his fault and that he will take Lewis's configuration in the next race and blah, 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 blah. Classic victim behavior, blaming himself when it's not his fault. All right, post race in the cool down room, it was very cute. Lewis was like, Kimmy, that's a lot of race wins now. You're catching me up. And Isaac's like, I think that's enough now. And Kimmy's just like, hee hee. Also, his radio after the race was just so cute and giddy, and you just remember he's a teenager and adorable, and I it's so cute. In his post-race Park Firm interview, Lewis mentions what a great turnout there was, which I think was referencing Kim Kardashian. And then he also said that he said something along the lines. He's like, we also there was also some struggle by some drivers to keep it on track. I think he was about to say Charles's name and then thought twice, so he recovered halfway. Also, he once again thanked just the guys back at the factory and here. And I'm really starting to get concerned about whether he's changing or whether Ferrari has no woman working there. Pierre's interview after the race was so sad. He literally had to pause and turn away from the camera for 20 seconds to compose himself because he was basically about to cry. And he was saying how heartbreaking it is and how he's worked for a decade to get to this point, to get a podium in Monaco, and for it to be taken away after he crossed the line because his team didn't tell him he had penalties. So he had no idea. So he crossed the line thinking he got third, and they're like, just kidding. You're not even close. By the way, you had penalties. They did try to appeal. I don't know how successful it is. I'm confused why they're the only ones that appealed. I would have expected more to appeal given how many people got the same penalty for speeding in the pit lane, but I was really sad for him. And in the post-race press conference, Lewis got asked about having Kim Kardashian there to support him. I have never seen this man struggle to answer a question. He was literally like, oh yeah, it's really nice that she's here. And then he went on and did a wider thank you for his friends and everything, and then he ended with it's nice for her to support me, but she does that every day. Cute. Also at the podium, she came to watch a proper wag. She pulled out her phone when Princess Charlene, I think is her name, was handing him his trophy. and she took a picture of him. And I think I did this caption first. I posted it in a box, but F1 did the same caption. And obviously I'm honestly surprised more people didn't do it because it was my first thought. But it was her taking pictures of him. I just kept thinking, oh my God, you're doing amazing, sweetie. Full circle moment. And then he blew her a kiss from the podium. And then after the podium, he found her and gave her like a quick hug. And they're just really cute. They're just so cute. And I don't care what anyone says. They're a great match, I think. Oh, also, so when they were waiting to go up to the podium, there's a clip of Isaac going, "We could have been the youngest podium, but," and then like pats Lewis on the shoulder, and she's like, "I feel like we are." And then in the post-race press conference, he's like, "Someone told me that I'm older than their ages combined, but it doesn't feel that way." Lewis doesn't feel old, in case anyone was wondering. He is, in fact, old, but he doesn't feel it, which is what matters. It's really cute. Also, Kimmy obviously jumped into the harbor as is tradition for the winter of Monaco, and just a great day for Will, Kimmy, and Tonelli. The driver of the day was officially Kimmy, and I think we're just gonna stick with Kimmy. I think Lewis also had a pretty good drive. I don't think there was any like exceptional drives today, honestly. I think people just survived. I don't know what was going on. The dig in the box, I'm gonna go with George, and also the well, actually, I don't really want to say George because so this is the thing about George. I think he really wants to hate Kimmy. And like all signs point to hating at Kimmy because of the dynamic of the team, how he's the star now, how this was supposed to be George's year, and here we are. Like, I understand George wanting to hate Kimmy, but I think he's extra frustrated because it's really hard to hate Kimmy. He's just so cute and little and adorable and wholesome, and like, how can you dislike him? And so I feel like that makes George extra frustrated because you want to dislike this person that's seemingly taking your future away from you. But you can't, and that's sad for George. But I don't think he was dick in the box, honestly. I do think that the real dick in the box was the pit lane speed sensor, and someone should really check on that. All right, so the Monaco Grand Prix results are as follows. Kimmy, Lewis, Isaac confirmed. Oscar, Liam, Lindblad, Gasly, Albon, Esteban, Alonso, Perez, because of the 10-second penalty, Bortoleto, George, Nico, and Colapinto. And then the DNFs are Carlos, Charles, Stroll, Lando, Ollie, Bottas, and Verstappen. Jesus Christ. The standings are as follows. Kimmy with 156 points, Lewis with 90 points, George with 88 points, Charles with 75 points, Oscar with 60 points, Lando with 58 points, Max with 43 points, Isaac with 29 points, Liam with 26 points, and Gasly with 26 points, and Ollie Bierman with 18 points, Franco Colapinto with 15 points, Arvin Lindblad with 13 points, Carlos Sainz with 6 points, Albon with 5 points, Ocon with 3 points, Bortoleto with 2 points, Alonso with 1 point, and Hulkenberg, Bottas, Perez, and Stroll with 0 points. That's fun. The Constructors' Championship is as follows. Mercedes, Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, Alpine, Racing Bulls, Haas, Williams, Audi, Aston, and Cadillac. Those are our standings. And that is it for the Monaco Grand Prix. Thank you so much for joining us today. Next up is Barcelona, which will be our first, I believe this is a street race, right? Yeah. Do we even have it? Oh yeah, we have a Spanish Grand Prix in September. Damn, that's late. So Barcelona Grand Prix is next week. It's our first time with this. I think it's a street track. It should be really interesting. I'm very excited to see Carlos in his hometown.
And that's next week. So until then, box.